Have you ever scrolled through social media and suddenly felt behind in life, even though you were fine 5 minutes ago? Do you feel a weight in your chest when you see others flaunting what seems like the perfect life? Let me ask you, are you really failing, or are you just being fed a highlight reel of someone else's best moments? If you're tired of comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's spotlight, you're in the right place. This video is your shield, a reminder that your worth isn't measured by likes, followers, or filtered smiles. Before we dive deep into how to reclaim your peace and mental clarity, make sure to subscribe if you're serious about self-mastery, stoic strength, and living on your own terms. 1. The comparison trap. Why it's so easy to fall in. We live in a world where we're constantly exposed to other people's success, beauty, and lifestyles. And here's the twist. Most of what we see isn't even real. It's curated, it's edited, it's timed. But the mind doesn't distinguish between reality and illusion when it's emotionally triggered. The polished vacation photos, the fit bodies, the career milestones, all of them are presented as snapshots of a perfect life. But what we rarely see are the breakdowns, the failures, the debt, the mental health struggles behind the screen. Yet we compare our raw, unfiltered experience to someone else's highlight reel and wonder why we don't feel enough. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what is within our control, but comparison pulls us away from that. It makes us obsess over external validation. It forces us to measure ourselves by someone else's ruler, and that ruler was never made for you. The Stoics believed that virtue, our choices, our integrity, our reason, was the only good. But when we compare ourselves to others, we let go of that principle and start chasing illusions. We abandon our internal compass and outsource our self-worth to others' opinions, achievements, and lifestyles. Comparison often disguises itself as motivation, but it usually leads to self-sabotage. You start doubting your path, you rush your growth, you feel anxious, inadequate, and lost. It becomes a loop. You scroll, you compare, you feel behind, you push harder or give up entirely, and none of it leads to peace. That's why the Stoic path requires radical self-awareness. It requires stepping back and asking, is this in my control? Is this helpful to my development as a rational, virtuous being? If not, it must be discarded. You are not behind. You are not late. You are on your own path. And the moment you understand this, the spell of social comparison begins to break. Life is not a race. It's a personal journey. The Stoics remind us that nature doesn't rush, yet everything gets done. Trees don't envy each other's height, rivers don't compare their pace. So why should you? Instead of chasing someone else's vision of success, craft your own. Define your own metrics, cultivate your own peace, and return always to what you can control, your mindset, your effort, and your values. 2. Jealousy, a signal, not a sentence. Jealousy isn't something to be ashamed of, it's a signal. It tells you what you deeply value. But if you don't manage it, it becomes poison. It clouds judgment and breeds resentment. Jealousy says, this matters to me. I want something like this in my life. But instead of using it as fuel, most people suppress it or let it fester. They project it onto others or turn it inward, damaging their confidence. The Stoic approach is to pause and investigate. What is this emotion telling me? What does it reveal about my desires and insecurities? Instead of saying, why not me, shift the mindset to, what can I learn from this? Jealousy can either trap you in bitterness or guide you toward growth. Someone else's success might be highlighting your own untapped potential. Their achievements may illuminate a part of yourself you've neglected. The key is to treat jealousy as feedback, not failure. You don't need to silence it, you need to understand it. Once you do, it transforms from a source of shame into a catalyst for self-improvement. A Stoic doesn't suppress their emotions, they examine them. You can feel jealousy without becoming jealous. The difference is whether you let it define your identity. Jealousy becomes dangerous when it morphs into envy, a wish to see others fail so you can feel better. But that's a sign you've lost your center. The Stoics taught that peace doesn't come from what others have or lack, it comes from how aligned you are with your own principles. If someone else's win disturbs your inner calm, that's an invitation to strengthen your own foundation. Use jealousy as a window into your soul. Ask, what does this reveal about what I want? What unmet need is surfacing here? Maybe it's a desire for recognition. Maybe it's the need for more courage. Maybe it's time to pursue something you've been afraid to chase. The point isn't to feel bad about feeling jealous. The point is to make jealousy your teacher. Let it guide you, refine you, and lead you back to yourself. That's the Stoic way, not denial, but discipline.
3. Social media, curated realities, and mental distortion. Let's be honest, social media isn't the enemy, but how we consume it can be. Every scroll is a silent comparison, every post is a subtle judgment, and every like is a hidden competition. The platform itself is neutral, but our untrained minds are not. Without self-awareness, social media becomes a breeding ground for insecurity. It amplifies desires, distorts priorities, and feeds the ego in disguise. That's why Stoic mindfulness is more relevant than ever. You must know when you're slipping into unconscious scrolling and ask, what am I feeding my mind with right now? When you're constantly comparing your reality to someone's digital illusion, your sense of self erodes. That's why it's not just about limiting screen time, it's about setting internal boundaries. You must remind yourself daily that what you see is filtered. People post their best moments, not their full story. You might see the house, but not the mortgage, the smile, but not the depression, the milestones, but not the sleepless nights. Don't compare your behind the scenes to someone's spotlight. Instead, return to your values, discipline, wisdom, justice, courage, and measure your worth accordingly. Follow people who inspire you, not those who trigger insecurity. And more importantly, remind yourself, someone's success doesn't diminish yours. Their shine doesn't take away your light. In fact, their success can be a sign that something is possible for you too. The Stoics would say that your peace should not depend on anyone else's fortunes. Whether others rise or fall, your focus remains. Am I living according to reason? Am I improving my character? Am I contributing to the world in a meaningful way? Be deliberate about your digital diet. Curate your feed the way you would curate your thoughts, with intention. Use social media to learn, to grow, to connect, but never to compare. If you notice that certain accounts trigger envy, take a break. If you're chasing likes to feel worthy, pause and realign. Stoicism doesn't ask you to abandon modern life. It asks you to master it. And that starts with reclaiming your attention, your emotions, and your self-worth from the grip of an algorithm. You are not your follower count. You are your principles in action.
4. Rebuilding self-esteem from the inside out. You can't outsource self-worth. It doesn't come from likes, approval, or validation. It comes from living in alignment with your values, doing what you say you'll do, even when no one's watching. Modern culture confuses self-esteem with popularity. But being well-liked isn't the same as being well-grounded. True self-esteem is earned, not gifted. It arises from consistency, when your actions reflect your inner standards, not public expectations. The Stoics emphasized virtue over reputation for this very reason. Your character, they believed, is your only true possession. You may lose your job, your relationships, even your health, but your virtue stays with you if you protect it. And virtue, in Stoic terms, means wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. When your life is shaped by these values, self-esteem becomes a byproduct, not a pursuit. Confidence isn't loud, it's quiet. It's the peace you feel when you're not performing for others. The Stoics believed in living with integrity, not applause. Confidence doesn't need to announce itself. In fact, the louder someone tries to appear confident, the more it often reveals their insecurity. The Stoic ideal was to live in accordance with nature, meaning to live truthfully, rationally, and in harmony with your role as a human being. Confidence, then, isn't bravado, it's self-respect, earned through repeated acts of discipline and principle. It's the feeling of looking in the mirror and knowing you didn't compromise who you are. When you live like this, there's no pressure to prove yourself to anyone else. You no longer need the spotlight because your inner light is strong enough. When you build self-esteem from actions, not opinions, you become immune to comparison. You stop chasing relevance and start cultivating purpose. The trap of comparison is rooted in external measurement. Social media fuels it daily, tricking us into ranking our worth against filtered versions of other people's lives. But when your sense of self is internal, this mental noise fades. The Stoics taught that we control only our judgments, choices, and actions, not what others think of us. By anchoring your self-esteem to what you can control, your effort, your principles, your growth, you make yourself invulnerable to the chaos of public opinion. You don't need to be the best in the room. You just need to be better than the person you were yesterday. That's purpose, that's self-leadership, and that's where real confidence begins. 5. Protecting your mental space. Detach with power. The goal isn't to become numb, it's to become free. When you practice Stoic detachment, you stop reacting emotionally to every external trigger. You observe without absorbing. Emotional detachment isn't about coldness or apathy. It's about clarity. The Stoics were never advocates for suppressing emotion. They were advocates for mastering it. When something painful happens, you don't deny it. You feel it, face it, and frame it within the bigger picture. Stoic detachment means refusing to hand over your peace to external events. It means reminding yourself that most of what happens is not up to you, but how you interpret and respond to it is. Detachment isn't withdrawal, it's empowerment. You're not indifferent, you're in control. You don't absorb every insult, every news headline, every shift in the wind. You stay centered. That's power. Protecting your mental space means knowing when to log off, when to rest, and when to remind yourself you are enough. Not someday, today. In a world addicted to stimulation, protecting your mental space is revolutionary. It means choosing stillness over noise, intention over impulse. You don't have to consume every opinion, react to every notification, or explain yourself to every critic. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is disconnect from drama, from distraction, from the endless need to prove. The Stoics knew the mind was sacred territory. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." That means your peace is your responsibility. Rest isn't laziness, it's maintenance. Silence isn't emptiness, it's strength. When you believe you are already enough, your boundaries stop feeling like walls and start becoming doors to peace. You were not born to live a copy-paste life. You were meant to carve your own path. And sometimes that requires stepping back to see clearly. Detachment allows you to rise above the noise and ask the deeper questions. Who am I? What do I stand for? What is truly mine to do in this life? When you're too close to the chaos, it's easy to lose perspective. That's why stepping back is essential, not to escape, but to gain insight. The Stoics taught that clarity often comes in solitude, and courage grows in contemplation. Detaching doesn't mean disengaging from life. It means returning to it with new eyes. You weren't meant to imitate others or live a life dictated by trends. Your path is yours to forge, and sometimes that requires choosing silence over shouting, values over popularity, and purpose over approval.
Here's what I want you to remember. Social media is a tool, jealousy is a signal, and comparison is a thief, only if you let it steal from you. Reclaim your narrative, disconnect to reconnect, and above all, protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. If this message resonated with you, hit subscribe and share it with someone who needs this reminder. You don't have to be louder, you just have to be grounded.